Next on Worcester News tonight, a Worcester man is suing the city and police officers, saying he was sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit. Plus, the Red Cross honors heroes who responded to the call for help after natural disasters over the last year. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Botari. Recognizing one's commitment to the community. Thursday, the Red Cross of Central Massachusetts hosted their annual Heroes Among Us, honoring people who have been selfless and given back to others. Hundreds turned out to celebrate more than a dozen honorees who exemplify the organization's mission. Our Cam Jandro joins us now live with more. Cam?
Anna, the event was created in the wake of 9/11 as a way to say thank you to first responders as well as volunteers. Tonight at the Beechwood Hotel, it was standing room only as the Red Cross paid tribute to the people that give back to their community.
The American Red Cross honoring 13 people who serve others in the worst of times. This year's theme, Hurricane Heroes.
They thought quick, they reacted, they went far above and beyond what an everyday person might do in an emergency.
5 Worcester police officers were recognized for their efforts in Puerto Rico following Hurricanes Maria and Irma. Sergeant Armando Garcia and officers Luis Baez and Danny Diaz all have personal connections. After the destruction, they immediately wanted to help.
There's so much debris all over the place, so I just asked myself, what are they going to do with all this debris? You can definitely see that people were in need of help.
We had no traffic lights, and it was tough because we had to make sure that there was officers always on the highway directing traffic.
They spent more than 2 weeks on the island, working 12-hour shifts without electricity. Diaz says the aftermath was unlike anything he'd ever seen.
That's when it really hits you, when you're starting to land and you see just the devastation. Everything was brown. There was really no green vegetation, nothing. Everything was just brown, like if a bomb just dropped in the middle of it.
After Hurricane Harvey hit Texas, Linda Russell took the Red Cross emergency response vehicle and drove nearly 2,000 miles to Houston. She and more than 20 others from Massachusetts handed out necessities like food and water to those impacted.
We see people at their lowest. I think we sometimes forget all the good that goes on around us and just everyday people who in their everyday lives do incredible, amazing things.
Would you guys go back?
I would, absolutely, without even hesitation, absolutely.
Now, other honorees at tonight's event include the Christian Community Church as well as students from the Rainbow Child Development Center. Anna?
Thanks, Cam. Boston University has decided to continue a Worcester-based Master's in Social Work program. The program was run by Wheelock College, who recently merged with BU. City councilors and the Central Mass State Delegation had concerns about the future of the program. Lawmakers from across central Massachusetts sent a letter to BU's president in March advocating for the program, saying closing it would be a blow to the region. The university reconsidered, and Mayor Joseph Petty says it's an important program to keep in the city.
People come in and testify that night in front of the city council, and otherwise they have to drive to Boston. We just lose a whole segment of the community here, and it keeps these people here in the city of Worcester. They get a master's, and they contribute here to the city, so it's an important program for us.
The program has about 28 people enroll each year. A man who spent 16 years in prison says he was wrongfully convicted. Nat Cosenza filed a civil lawsuit against the city and police officers. He was convicted of assault and battery and armed burglary in 2002, but was released when a court vacated his conviction in 2016. Cosenza says he lost years of his life with his family. Our Brittany Schaefer has more.
I want them to pay for what they did to me.
Nat Cosenza spent 16 years in prison for a crime he says he didn't commit. The now 44-year-old says the Worcester Police Department framed him.
They lied. They got on the stand, perjured themselves. They didn't care about what was going to happen to me or my family or what we were going through. They just cared about their numbers and getting the convictions.
In 2000, Worcester police arrested Cosenza after investigating an attack on a 37-year-old woman. Cosenza's attorney Chauncey Wood says the victim's initial description of the suspect did not match Cosenza, and Worcester police manufactured the identification procedure to lead to his arrest.
The Supreme Judicial Court several years later, recognized that the tactics used in this case were going to inevitably lead to wrongful convictions. Those procedures could not be used anymore.
Woods says 2 Worcester detectives showed the victim 9 faces and told her an arrest would likely not be able to happen if she didn't identify a suspect. The suit mentions an initial police report stating the victim didn't get a good look at her attacker, and Cosenza's lawyers say the identification process was the only piece of evidence used to convict him.
The most common form and source of wrongful convictions are single witness identification cases. Nat's case is a classic wrongful conviction case.
Nat's conviction wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. The police lied and they cut corners to make sure that Nat was convicted.
Cosenza says worse than the physical and mental abuse he experienced in prison was losing valuable time with his 2 daughters and father.
When I did get exonerated, I was basically sentenced to another term where I had to watch my father die for 2 years. It was the hardest thing I had to go through in my life. The only positive that I can see out of this is he got to see me be released.
The city released a statement saying, "We learned of these allegations only last Friday, and we will vigorously defend the city and officers named in the complaint." Brittany Schaefer, Worcester News Tonight.
A Holden man charged with killing his brother is sentenced to life in prison Thursday. According to the Worcester County District Attorney's Office, Michael Dowjat was found guilty of second-degree murder in April. According to prosecutors, Dowjat made a conscious decision to kill his estranged brother, David Allen, in June of 2014. They say the 68-year-old inflicted more than 65 injuries to his younger brother, including knife wounds and blunt trauma. Dowjat has the possibility of parole after serving 15 years. A new piece of technology at the Oxford Police Department will allow officers to get a bird's-eye view. A drone provided by a local company will be a tool to keep the public safe. Our Rosalind Flaherty has the story.
Oxford Air 1 takes flight. The drone is the newest tool for the Oxford Police Department to help enhance public safety.
Helping our officers in the street and helping our citizens.
The drone can be launched from almost anywhere. It will help officers in situations like a SWAT team operation or locating a missing person.
So we had an injured individual over here at Hodges Village. We've got miles and miles of trails. Not everybody's familiar with all the trail systems. So they may call 911 and not know where they are. We can actually put the drone up with the thermal camera and actually find them.
Pilot and Command Officer Craig Gagner says the drone has 3 different cameras which he controls from the ground. He can see what's happening on a screen in front of him. In this video, people can be seen walking around in the middle of the night.
We've got a fixed lens 4K camera, we've got a zoom lens 4K camera, and then we've got the thermal camera, which is invaluable in my opinion. Just at night, you can see everything.
Officer Gagner says he used the drone Wednesday during a brush fire in town, and it had great results.
I was able to give the deputy chief some feedback as to the hot spots, if there were any additional spot fires in the area.
The device was paid for by the Oxford-based company IPG Photonics. Chief Anthony Sad says they'll only use the drone when they need its help, and residents don't have to worry about it invading their privacy.
It's going to be very specific. So obviously there are Fourth Amendment considerations, search and seizure considerations, and we put the drone up in those particular circumstances, we may have to write a search warrant.
Gagner is the only officer who is qualified to fly the drone. He says it can be nerve-wracking at times, but it's all about completing the mission. Rosalind Flaherty, Worcester News Tonight.
Now to an update on a story out of Leicester. A few weeks back, a Leicester shoplifter was identified after leaving his fingerprint on Playdoh he had attempted to use on a security device. The fingerprint led Leicester police to the arrest of 55-year-old Dennis Jackson. As a thank you from Hasbro, the maker of Playdoh, the toy maker sent along a box filled with Playdoh and a note recognizing the work the officers put into the fingerprint case.
I started out by commending the officers involved for the good work that they did in recovering the print, and then they gave something to the community. And that to us just says everything. You know, we don't hide it. We're in a profession right now that is under an intense microscope, and it's nice to have the good work recognized once in a while.
Chief Jim Hurley says they plan to give the Play-Doh to kids in their community. He says he and the officers plan to choose where to distribute it together. A cooking demonstration held in the city tonight, hosted by the Jewish and Latino communities. Executive Director of the Jewish Federation of Central Mass, Stephen Schimmel, says the two communities have been working together for years, and there are a lot of similarities in the cooking styles. They were able to show off their skills Thursday at this space provided by Percy's. Schimmel says the event was a chance to showcase the unique differences in recipes found in both cultures. He says the goal of events like these are to build alliances between the two communities.
The big picture is to really build relationships so that the leaders of the Latino community, the leaders of the Jewish community, and in fact, all members of both communities get to know one another, have a better understanding of one another, and support one another in times of need.
He says going forward, they're going to do a music event, educational workshops, and history lectures.